Hello, my name is Steve Bowler, and welcome to the Introduction to Juniper Lab number 1. In this lab, we're going to take a closer look at JUNOS basics. So in the Introduction to Juniper Lab number 1, we are going to familiarize ourselves with the following items. I'm going to show you how to navigate through the different command line interface modes, or the CLI modes. We are going to perform basic configuration within JUNOS. These configuration items include changing the system hostname and also changing the system time. I'm also going to show you and explain the concept of the commit command along with the rollback command. And also in this video, I will be teaching you some of the basic Juniper terminology and features that go along with those. So as we can see, we have a very simple network topology. We have the laptop that I am currently producing this video on, that is connected to the Juniper device, which is the SRX210. And this is a Juniper router that I have purchased. And so the SRX series is a firewall type of Juniper device and is used for small businesses and other areas for security purposes. And also, what I'm going to show you with this device is how to navigate through the Juniper command line interface, familiarize yourself with the JUNOS command structure. So let's go ahead and jump into the configuration. I have PuTTY, so I have a laptop that's connected into the Juniper SRX210. And this specific model is the 210H, and I believe the H stands for high memory. In this case, the high memory, we have 1 gig of memory. So if it's a non-H SRX 210, I believe you have 500 or 512 mega RAM. So the laptop, the network interface card on the laptop is connected into the gig interface. There's 2 gig interfaces on this router. And also this SRX box is power over Ethernet as well. The only thing that this image shows that my SRX210 does not have here at home is the T1E1 card. So right now on my router, this T1E1 card is covered up. There's just a plate over it. Whereas this one is populated, the router in this picture is populated with the T1E1 card. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're just going to lay a solid foundation in this lab to build, for you guys to build off of, especially if this is your introduction video into Juniper. We want to provide you with the basics of the JUNOS so that you have a foundation to learn and to build off of. So we're going to use PuTTY to get into the device. The device IP is 192.168.1.1, and we're going to SSH into it. So some of the features I already have set up on the SRX. Again, the SRX210 is it's similar to the ASA series that Cisco has. So the SRX, again, is a firewall, can also be used as a router. It runs all routing protocols, and I'm going to show you how to set up all those routing protocols later on in the more advanced Juniper labs. So we're going to SSH to 192.168.1.1. That's the IP address assigned to our router, the SRX, and it's going to come up with a login prompt. We're going to log in as the root because that is our account that we have created on the Juniper device. And it's going to ask us for the password, so I'm going to put in the default password that we have, or that I set up. And right away, if you're not familiar with Juniper devices, you can see that the JUNOS is the Juniper operating system, kind of like Cisco has the iOS, which is the Internet Networking Operating System. The iOS, the version of the JUNOS that we're running is shown. And also I'll explain the JUNOS version in a different video where I show you how to upgrade your JUNOS from one version to another. So right off the bat we see that we are prompted, our command prompt shows the root at awesome. So again, this awesome is the name of the router. I just put that in there. I was just playing around. I was just so excited that I finally got the SRX210 the other day, and as you can see, part of that excitement, I just put in awesome as the name of the device because it is an awesome device. So right now it shows me at root at awesome. So this is the router name again, awesome, that I already created. And the percentage symbol, if you're familiar with Unix, then you already know that this represents the Unix shell prompt. And it should be known that the JUNOS kernel is based off of the FreeBSD Unix operating system. So again, there's a lot of similarities that you will see between those two items. So one of the things that we're going to point out and teach you in this video is we're going to show you how to navigate through the command line modes, the command line interface modes. So there's two main modes within the command line on your Juniper devices, and those two modes are configuration mode and operational mode. So right now we're not in either mode. Again, we're in the Unix shell prompt. To get into operational mode, we have to enter the command CLI. So once we hit CLI and enter, you can see that the greater than sign indicates that we are now in operational mode. And operational mode is used for monitoring and troubleshooting as well as file and system management. So we're not really going to be doing a lot of the configuration of the device in operational mode. We're going to be doing show commands. So we're just going to be verifying the configuration of our device in operational mode. So from operational mode, if I just hit a question mark, you can see that I have multiple items right off the bat. Again, the question, if I put in the question command, this gives me the possible completions for this hierarchy within the JUNOS. I have an option to configure, to use a file statement, to use the help command. Like we said before, the majority of operational mode, you're going to be using the show command a lot. Again, this is where we'll use ping and telnet. So there's a lot of options. So let's go ahead and just run a show command. To look at the configuration on the router, the way we're going to do this is just do a show configuration and then hit enter. And as you can see, if you're not familiar with the Juniper output, a lot of this looks very confusing to you. Let's go ahead and hit the space bar, and we hit the space bar to get, it'll show a new page of output. So right off the bat we can see that it looks very confusing. There's a lot of things on the SRX that is populated by default. It sets up your zones, your what's known as security zones. So you have trusted and untrusted zones. Obviously, gig 000 is the interface that, if we go back to the network diagram, my laptop is plugged into gig 000, and so this is a trusted security zone. Also, one of the things I want to show you is that the hierarchy structure is a lot different if you're familiar with other popular network infrastructure vendors. We have a file structure that shows system commands. So under system is where the following items can be modified. So we have the host name, like I was showing you earlier. The host name was set to awesome, and this option is under the system hierarchy of the JUNOS. So that's one of the main hierarchy structures. That's one of the main places that you can edit is from the system. We also have interfaces, and it shows the interfaces that are configured. Currently we have gig 000 and also loopback 0. We have what's known as routing options, where we can configure a lot of different things, such as the router ID. We have the protocols hierarchy. Under the protocols hierarchy, we're going to see our routing protocols listed, such as OSPF. We could also have RIP, our ISIS, our BGP. And I'm going to show you this hierarchy a little more in this video under, again, this is all can be edited under configuration mode. So I just wanted to show you what a show configuration command looks like under the Juniper device. So there's also an option to do autocomplete on Juniper devices. For instance, if we want to do a show configuration, if I just do show CO and then hit question mark, you can see that I have two completions. We have configuration and connections. But if I go one step further and do CONF, we see that we only have one possible completion, and that's show configuration. So from here, if I just hit the tab option, you can see that it auto-completes the word for me, so I don't have to type out the word in full. So it's very handy, especially when you get into configuring a lot of different items. The autocomplete command can do wonders for you. So let's go ahead and let's start with the configuration. Let's do just a basic configuration on the router. We'll get into, now that you've seen some of the basics of operational mode and some of the items that we can do. Again, if we do question mark, you can see that we can do pings, trace routes, we can configure the device, or you can just type in edit, and that's how you enter configuration mode. Also, let's get out of configuration mode, and we do that by using the exit command. We can also, to go into configuration mode, you can also just type in configure. So there's two ways to do that. To enter configuration mode, you can use edit or configure. Either one is going to get you the same place. So let's go ahead and get into configuration mode again. We'll go and do edit. And we can see if we just do a question mark from the top of our hierarchy, we have a lot of different options that we can do. We can do what's known as a commit, but I'll teach you that later, show you how to use the commit option. We can do rollbacks, we can do replace, renames, quit, saves, set, show, top. There's a lot of options that you might not be familiar with now, but I'm going to show you and try to explain a lot of these to you in this lab. So if you remember, if we go back to when I did the show configuration command, you saw that under system we have the option for hostname, and we know that the router is currently named awesome because we are at the root at awesome command prompt. And again, something to remember, when you're in configuration mode, you see the pound sign. If I do the statement edit and then question mark, this is where we have all of the items that we can edit within configuration mode. Again, configuration mode is where a lot of the main changes are made to the protocols, to the interfaces, to include IP addressing and other options. So this is where the majority of our configuration within the Juniper device is going to be made. So if I go and do edit system and hit enter, you can see now that we have changed to the edit system hierarchy. So now if I do a question mark, actually now if I do, let's do this. If I do the set command, and the set command is going to set a parameter. So let's see, if I do a set command and hit a question mark, these are all of the options that I have under the edit system hierarchy that I have to complete. So we can see before, this is how we set the host name to awesome. We did the command set and then followed that up with the hostname option. So we did the statement set hostname and then put in whatever the hostname we want to have for this router. In this case, we could just set the hostname to intro lab 1. You can also, if we go, right now we're under the system, edit system hierarchy. If I go back, if I hit the exit, if I enter exit from here, this is going to send us back to the top of the configuration hierarchy. So we're at edit mode. Again, this is the top of the configuration hierarchy. I can do that same command. I can change the host name like I did before, where I was under edit system hierarchy and put set host name. I can change the host name under the top of the configuration hierarchy by doing the command set system and then follow that up with host name as well. So if I do set system host name, and then we'll just call this intro lab 1 and hit enter, you can see that the command was taken. What happened when I hit enter? Well, I just set the system hostname to intro lab 1. However, it didn't change. So the system hostname is still awesome. And that's because on Juniper routers and switches, Juniper devices, in order to get this command to go from the running configuration to the active configuration, I should say, we have to, in order to get this item from the, into the active configuration, we have to do the commit command. So right now, if we do a show statement, and this is how we look at the configuration from configuration mode. If we just hit a show and then look under system, I think that should be at the very top. Don't know why I went down all the way. We can see that the system hostname shows up as what we set it to, which was intro lab 1. So you're probably wondering, well, why did it not change? Well, it's known right now, it's in a configuration known as the candidate configuration. So this is, you can think of a candidate for the configuration changing. And we can look at changes that have been made to the active configuration and put in what's called as the candidate configuration by doing the command known as show pipe compare. So what this command is going to do, the show pipe compare, is going to give us some output, some very good information as to what was changed from the active configuration to the candidate configuration. And the candidate configuration is the configuration that when we do a commit command from here, then this candidate configuration will be put into the active configuration. So it seems a little confusing at first when you first take a look at this, but it's not really that hard to understand once you get into the router yourself and play around with a couple of configurations. So the minus and the plus options are our key indicators as to what has changed in the configuration. Obviously we see that we took away the hostname of awesome, indicated by the minus sign, and we added the hostname of intro lab 1. Again, this is known as the candidate configuration. This is the configuration has been changed, but it is not active, the active configuration of the router. Obviously we can see that because the name of the router is still awesome. So let's go ahead and commit the change. And the commit statement, you can see, has multiple options as well. You can do commit check, where you can check your correctness of the syntax. It will not apply the changes. This is going to just make sure that you have not made any syntax errors. So if I just do commit check and then hit enter, it's either going to tell me that it succeeded or failed. And then if it fails, it'll tell me exactly where in the configuration my failure is occurring. And then I can go and check that configuration. So we can see by doing the commit check, you can see that the configuration check succeeds. So at this point, if I do a commit, then we should see the router name change from awesome to intro lab 1. We could also do what's known as a commit comment, where we can put a message to write to the commit log. We can also do commit confirmed. And this option is very useful because what this will do is it will automatically roll back if not confirmed. So what this means is that you have, when you do commit confirmed, I'll go ahead and show you this real fast actually. I'll do commit confirmed and then hit enter. So at this point right now the router is committing the changes from candidate configuration and putting it into the active configuration. What we can see is that the commit confirmed will be automatically rolled back in 10 minutes unless confirmed. This is telling us that in order to keep the configuration that we have committed, we have to commit it. So again, to wrap up, what the commit confirm does is that, say you add some changes to your router that might kick you out of the router. And we've all done this before. We've been in the situation where we have a customer who calls, or we're doing a configuration change for somebody, or even at our house in our lab, and we lock ourselves out of the device. Well, with Juniper, they kind of give you a safety feature in that when you do a commit confirmed, if you don't put in the extra commit statement like we just had to do, then what will happen is that the configuration will automatically be rolled back within a specific time interval. In this case, 10 minutes is the default, and you can also set the timeout, whatever you want. So it's very powerful. A very awesome command is the commit confirmed. Also, let's go ahead and take a look at the commit. You can see that you also have the option for commit and quit. So what this is going to allow you to do is, just like it says, you commit, you quit, and this is going to take us out of configuration mode and into operational mode. As we can see, it says exiting configuration mode. So we've gone over most of these. We can also do a commit at a certain time. Again, that's just using the commit at, and that's the time at which to activate configuration changes. So say we want to go ahead and proactively set up a configuration for a customer, or just something we're working on in the lab, we can do a commit at, and say at 5 o'clock at night we want to make sure that this goes through and not any time sooner than that. So we just do a commit at 5 p.m. or whatever time we want to do, and it'll happen at that time. Whatever the clock's time is, that's what it's going to sync to. So again, a very cool feature with the commit. We also have commit comment. That's where we can put in there, and we can go back into the log and see, okay, this is what I was doing. So in this case, I could do commit comment and just put in changed router name. So now if I do a show log messages and we go let's see. I'm sorry. The command we're looking for is show system commit. And if we hit enter, we can see that it gives us our latest commits. For instance, when we confirmed it, it showed us that statement, and also it just showed us the last commit. That's obviously commit. The last commit was 0. So again, 0 being the latest commit, 5 being the commit that was the farthest back. Under this commit, it showed that a description, it showed that we changed the router name. So again, that's just another additional feature with the commit command. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the other options that we wanted to explain, some more of the JUNOS basics. We went through navigating the command line interface modes. We showed you operational mode, configuration mode. We changed the system host name. We explained the commit command. So let's go ahead and take a look at the rollback command. So what the rollback command is going to do at a very basic level, the rollback command is going to allow us to revert back to a previously saved active configuration. So say somebody changes something on accident on the router, something configuration wise, and we did not want that to occur. One of the quickest ways to get that configuration back in place before they did, say they changed 100 things on the router, well, instead of having to go back and take out every single one of those commands individually, you can just simply do what's known as a rollback command, and all of those statements will all be taken off very quickly. So in this part, we only changed one command. We only changed the host name. And again, this is done under configuration mode. If we do a question mark, you can see that we have the rollback option. So this is the rollback to previously committed configuration. So if I do this statement rollback, and if I just do rollback 0, you can see that our host name is still intro lab 1. So rollback 0 did not do anything. All that does is roll back to the configuration that is present on the router. Just to show you this, that is correct, let's go ahead and do this. Let's do set system hostname Bowler CBT Labs. We'll go ahead and commit this in real time. So again, when we're not doing commit confirmed and we just do a commit, we should see the hostname change in real time, and that is exactly what we see. So now we see that we have the change Bowler CBT Labs. Now if we do the command rollback 0, what we can see is that it actually rolled back nothing at all. So we're still stuck with the same configuration. We see Bowler CBT Labs is still present. If I do a rollback 1, actually let's go ahead and do this. This might be the easiest way to explain this. If I do a set system hostname A and do a commit, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change the host name 3 times. I'm going to change the host name to A, then I'm going to change the host name to B, then I'm going to change the host name to C. So now let's do set system hostname B. We'll commit that. The reason I want to do it this way because there was a couple of times there where I did a few commits, and I want to make sure that we have this all laid out here correctly. And now I'll do set system hostname C. We'll go ahead and commit this. So we have 3 times that we have committed the configuration. We've made 3 configuration changes. We changed the host name of the device 3 times from A to B to C. So now if I do a rollback 0, you see that it shows the load complete. If I do a rollback 1, you can see that it says load complete again. But now if I do the show command, if I do a show, you can see that it says the host name is B. And that's because when I do a rollback, that configuration becomes the candidate configuration. So when up here, when I did the command, let's see, when I did rollback 1 up here, and when I did the show configuration, what that would have shown is the host name of what it was before I changed it to Bowler CBT Labs. So should be at that point Intro Lab 1. So what I'm trying to teach you is that even though you do a rollback statement, that configuration does not become the active configuration right away. That becomes the candidate configuration, as we can see with the current example. So again, in order to make that statement or that configuration active, I have to do a commit statement. So sorry if I confused you on that above when I did the rollback, when I created it, the hostname of Bowler CBT Labs. Apologize. So now that I've done the commit, you can see that we have successfully rolled back to the previous configuration where the device, the host name, instead of C was B. Also, I want to show you where these configuration changes are at. If we're in operational mode, we do the command file list config. We can see that we have multiple copies of the configuration, and they're all named 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 consecutively down the line. And it gives us a copy of the config and the times the configs were changed. We can take a look at this configuration. If I do a file show and then do /config, and then let's just look at Juniper config .1.gz, you can see that this was the previous configuration where I named the host name C. So before this, if I go back to 2, we see this is where we named the host name B. And then if I even go back further to 3, this is where I named the host name A. So what we can see is we can go back and see exactly what the configurations held by doing the file show /config /Juniper and then putting in the configuration that we want to see. It's a very cool feature. Again, if I do a file list config Juniper, it's going to give us multiple copies of the configuration that we had previously saved. So we can look at those and we can determine based on those options. So say we did a file show config and then let's do 5. This is where we had the host name 2 that was Intro Lab 1. So let's try this. Let's go and do a rollback 5. And if I do a show we can see that the host name is indeed IntroLab 1. So that's one of the features you can use when you're using the rollback to see, okay, well, what version of the configuration do I need to roll back to? You can always look and see what those versions were by going to the operational mode and just doing a file list, and the default path is config, and then there's all your those are all your previous configuration paths. So again, 1 is the most present, and then 5 is the farthest back config. So if you're wondering, when I tried to exit, it says the configuration has been changed but not committed. Exit with uncommitted changes, and I hit yes. So if I go back to configuration mode, you can see that it warns me, entering configuration mode, the configuration has been changed but not committed. So the JUNOS, the Juniper devices are very intuitive and informative in that they will tell you and warn you, okay, look, the configuration has been changed. Before you go ahead and do some commits and try to change the configuration, we're just letting you know that you might want to take a look at that. Again, the command we can do to take a look at the configuration is we can just do a show pipe compare. Okay, what's changing? We have the host name that is B right now is going to be deleted. We can see that with the minus sign, and the host name of IntroLab 1 is going to be added. So we go ahead and commit that and make that change occur. Another good command is the run command. It's kind of like the do command on Cisco devices, where you do like do show from global configuration mode or interface configuration mode on the Cisco iOS device. The run option allows you to do kind of like the similar features. So you can do like run monitor interface, if you're trying to monitor an interface. We haven't got that far into showing you what monitor interface does. Or you can do like a run show interface to see the real-time stats. Again, stuff that you want to see in operational mode. That, if you're in configuration mode, you wouldn't be able to do without entering the run command. So the run is going to give you that option. Basically, the run command will give you the option to perform operational mode commands within configuration mode. So let's go ahead and go back to our sheet that shows what we're trying to do in this lab. Introduction lab, Juniper lab number 1. We showed you the operational mode. We showed you the command line interface modes. We performed basic configuration. We changed the system host name. We explained the commit command. We explained the rollback command. We also showed you and taught you some of the basic Juniper terminology and features. Let's go ahead and change the system time. It's one of the main things you want to do when you first get the device up and running. Let's go ahead and take a look and see how you do that in the first place. If we do a show how you look at that information, if we do a show system uptime, this is going to give us the current time on the device. Again, in UTC. So the way we're going to change the system time is by doing the command set date. can also, you have two options from set date. You have the NTP option, so you set the system date and time using the network time protocol servers, or you can set it manually by doing the option set date, and then you can see the new date and time in year, month, day, hour, minute, second format. So in this case we can do year is 2011, month is September, the day is the 15th, the hour is 11, the minute is 41, and seconds we'll just put 00.
By hitting enter, we can see that the new time is now present. This time is Central Standard Time because that's the time zone that I'm in here locally. So there'd be one last thing I'd have to do is I'd have to go under configuration mode and do the command set system time zone and change the time zone to reflect Central Standard Time because by default it's UTC.
So very easy to do. Show system uptime. Now we can see that the time has changed. Before it was set to 1050 UTC, and now we set that to 1141. So very easy to do, but it's very simple. But again, that's one of those things that you always want to make sure that you have correct, especially when you're performing logging on your devices and you need to know when certain outages have occurred, or the uptimes of protocols, or downtimes of protocols. You need to make sure that your clocks are synced correctly with the correct time. So one of the last things I would just want to show you is the use of what's known as the top command. Let's go into configuration mode. Now if I go under edit, you can see that we have a lot of options to edit. In this case, we'll go ahead and go under, let's just say edit interfaces, or I'm sorry, let's do this. We'll go under edit protocols, BGP, and then we'll also go further. We'll go under edit family, and let's do iNet. This is IPv4. So now we're under the edit protocols BGP family iNet hierarchy, and let's say to get all the way up to the top of the configuration hierarchy, that would be the edit mode. The way I do that is I just can type in or do the top statement, and you can see now that I went from edit protocols BGP family iNet to edit mode. So that's a quick way to get from a lower level hierarchy all the way up to the very top very quick, is by using the top statement or the top option. So the command hierarchy on the Juniper devices can be a little tricky and a little hard to get used to at first, but once you start practicing, you can see that it's not very difficult to understand. For instance, if we're under edit interfaces, we can apply global statements under all interfaces, which is a very powerful tool, or we can go under one interface in particular. We can go under edit, and then we can put in our interface name directly that we want to go under. So in this case, we're under gig E001. So any commands that are under this interface directly, so we do the set statement, so we do set space question mark, so all these options are going to be options that are set directly under gig E001 and none of the other interfaces. In this case, I can do set unit, and then unit number 0, family iNet. So you probably don't know what I'm doing right now, but that's okay, because in the next lab, I'm going to show you exactly what I'm doing. So we'll just do, I just want to show you this real fast. So I do set unit 0, family iNet, address, I'm just putting an IP address basically on the interface to show you. So once I do that set and hit, then do my commit, I'm putting an IP address on the interface. And again, that's just gig 001. So once the commit is completed, I can go just do a top. That sends me to the top of the configuration. If I do a show command, we can now see that under gig 001, I have the IP address that I just assigned. So there's options, there's global options for all interfaces, and there's also options on a per interface basis that you can set. So that's some of the power of the JUNOS that JUNOS provides to you, is that the configuration hierarchy is very powerful. You can go under Edit Protocols and do a question mark, and you can see all the different options that you can do. Again, to see the parameters specifically under Edit Protocols, you do this with the set option. So set question mark, you can see these are all the protocol options that I have, are all the options that I have specifically listed under the protocols. Obviously these are all protocols mostly. We have RIP, RIP-NG, VRRP, BGP, so again, don't worry about what I just put on. If you're not familiar with the options that I put under gig E001, in my next lab, I'm going to provide us with a closer look at the physical, at all the interfaces basically, and explain how to do specific basic functions under the interfaces. In this lab, to sum it up, this is our introduction to Juniper Lab number 1, which we showed you the JUNOS basics. We navigated through the command line interface modes of the operational mode and the configuration mode. We performed basic configurations, and we explained to you while we did these configurations, we explained to you very key commands that you need to know to give you a good solid foundation of Juniper devices. We showed you how to use the commit command, the rollback command. We explained basic Juniper terminology and features. We also showed you just some of the shortcuts that you can use and key features that Juniper has, like commit confirmed and some of the other options. Again, this is Introduction to Juniper Lab number 1, JUNOS Basics. I want to thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.